When plans fails, a devotion based on Psalm 60. I will read it for us. O God, you have rejected us, broken our defenses. You have been angry or restore us. You have made the land to quake. You have torn it open. Repair its breaches, for it totters. You have made your people see hard things. You have given us the wine to drink that made us stagger. You have set up a banner for those who fear you, that they may flee to it from the bow, that your beloved ones may be delivered. Give salvation by your right hand and answer us. God has spoken in his holiness. With exaltation, I will divide up Shechem and portion out the vale of Succoth. Gilead is mine and Manasseh is mine. Ephraim is my helmet, Judah is my scepter. Moab is my wash basin, upon Edom I cast my shoe. Over Philistia I shout in triumph, who will bring me to the fortified city? Who will lead me to Edom? Have you not rejected us, O God? You do not go forth, O God, with our armies. O grant us help against the foe, for vain is the salvation of man. With God we shall do valiantly. It is he who will tread down our foes or our enemies. When we are trying, or when what we are trying to accomplish results in failure, this psalm is good to help us evaluate the causes and even discover our way forward. When our plans fail, we must at least consider whether this is a sign that God was not in it. The psalmist says this as rejection, or considers it as rejection, even as punishment. And our experience shows that this can be the case. To act in our own strength or out of our own sinful motives can be to act out of weakness. Often, we can see the damaging consequences of sin as it works itself out in all our relationships over many generations. Addiction to drugs can cause robbery, and it can even bring murder sometimes to cover somebody's tracks of doing the robbery. Adultery can destroy marriages and even damage and distort the lives of the children who are too young to understand or even deal with it. When we look at our own society and all the abuses that we see, we can even describe the consequences in much the same terms like the psalmist described them. The land is shaken, torn open, breaches, or there is a breach, there is tottering and quaking. These are all fitting description of the world around us today. Much of the disintegration we see and experience is the direct result of our own selfish choice or choices and attempts to control and manipulate the world for our satisfaction. But we also need to be careful in our evaluation. Not all failure is the result of sin or the punishment of God. Some suffering falls on the righteous, even though there was not failure that had been done or there was no mistake. The world is a complex place, and its fallen character means that the blessings and pains of natural circumstances like refreshing rain, the rain that comes to all of us, the destructive storm and hurricane, the insects or pests that killing the crops, and even the drought, the devastating earthquake, and even our present pandemic can come on rich and poor, righteous or wicked alike. Moreover, being righteous is no guarantee of security from the evil deeds of others and the long-term consequences of those things. Similarly, the failure of our hopes and plans need not always to be a result of divine punishment for our sin. Just like Achan. Achan is the only one who sinned because he took the plunder, and yet all Israel, including their leader Joshua, experienced the defeat. Thus, therefore, if failure of our plans cannot tell us absolutely whether it is the result of our sin or some other circumstance, what can it tell us? These are three things that we may learn from Psalm 60, and we can probably think about them to clear up our minds in times when our plans are failing. Number one, in Psalm 69 to 12, it talks about to take the fortified city requires God's power and assistance. We may have certain successes in our lives by our own resources, intelligence, and strength. But the fortified city, the final goal of bringing the fortified outposts to destroy the deep-seated evil can only be done under the rule of God and under God's power. He is the creator and sustainer, and He is the one who restores and heals broken lives caused by human evil. Relying on human strength, as it says in verse 11, alone is worthless. Again, relying on human strength alone is worthless, just like it says in Psalm 60:11. There is vain in the help of human alone. The second thing we may take and learn when we don't know what the cause of failure is, our failures, whatever the cause, do not destabilize God's plan and purposes in our lives. No matter how broken and how disintegrated our world becomes because of our own or other sin, God can mend and heal up its fractures. Our failures do not mean that God has failed. Note that when the psalmist recalls the conquest when he talks about dividing the city, or God dividing the city, calling the places mine, all the places mentioned remain the possession of God, even when His people fail to take them. Interestingly, the account of the incomplete conquest in Joshua indicates that the failure of the Israelite conquest of Canaan was both of Israel's loss of commitment to Yahweh and because of Yahweh's testing of His people's faithfulness. The third thing we can learn: broken relationships can be restored. Destruction, no matter how desperate, can be mended, according to the second verse of this psalm. God offers deliverance from sin. He has established a way to restore broken relationship with Him through our Lord Jesus Christ. When we are tempted to label ourselves or others unredeemable, God's desire to see all return to Him is the source of the psalmist's great hope. This hope also extends to those who also have been severely damaged in body, mind, and spirit through the destructive, abusive, evil of others against us. Rape, long-term mental illness, emotional, physical, or sexual abuse, torture, all this leave deep affecting damage in our lives. Yet the psalmist offer us hope for such damage can be mended. I would end with a story. Anatoly Sharansky tells in his prison memoir, Fear No Evil, how God, mostly through the Psalms, enabled him to maintain his sense of worth and human dignity in spite of years of torture, isolation, and attempts to rob him of his humanity in the Russian prison and gulag system. After his father died, when Anatoly was still in prison, when he was prevented from even writing in condolence to his mother about the loss, Sharansky embarked on a 40-day program of copying and reading the Psalms from the Hebrew book of Psalms given him by his wife. The effect was remarkable. And Sharanki writes, day after day, I reconciled myself with the past, and my feelings of grief and loss were gradually replaced by sweet sorrow and fond hopes. Sharansky still languished in prison for years. The physical, mental, and psychological toll on his person was great, but his spirit remained intact, sustained by the power of God's words in the Psalms to mend brokenness and to retake territory occupied by evil. God bless us all today, and God bless all our week. Thank you.